Dave Van Auken here. The red light is on my man, the Dave Van Auken Show. Carlos, what's up, my guy? How are you?
How you doing, Dave?
Doing good, brother.
Great. I'm doing especially great after this weekend.
I know, man. Dude, so much I want to get into, man. So much past stuff. And first and foremost, man, I was watching one of your other interviews you did. Dude, thank you for your service, man. I heard that you 7 years, doing this stuff. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, man. I'm glad I'm out, but it was it definitely shaped me as a man, you know.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure. But really do appreciate it. All right, man, let's get into it this weekend, dude. Big win, big stage, UFC Fight Pass. UFC Fight Pass loves having fighters, main event on the card, get wins, get some good stuff. And then all of a sudden you slide into the UFC. They already got footage of you, brother. So how vital do you think that fight was for you?
I think it was, definitely first time being on Fight Pass. I think I needed that because there's literally can't find anything recent on me. Unless you go buy it on the Fight app. There's literally nothing to research.
Bro, it's all Sean O'Malley stuff from like 9 years ago.
It's all Sean O'Malley stuff, which was like 20 years ago. And that's always the first thing people ask me. They're like, you fought Sean O'Malley? I'm like, yeah, a long time ago. But
I always do all my interviews in permanent black marker. I got no Sean O'Malley stuff on the page. And then the fan questions come in. It's like, O'Malley. I'm like, God damn, dude.
That's so rare. That's funny.
I tried, man. I tried.
No, but it's interesting to talk about because
he's a big star, man. He's a huge star. And probably when you fought him a long time ago, you would have no idea looking at the kid. I saw the video.
Oh yeah.
And like how he's doing the interviews. I'm like, that's Sugar Sean.
Yeah, I know, right? He looks like a kid back then. Now he looks like a man. But no, it was definitely big platform for me with Fury, and then being one of the last fights, and then against Randy Villarreal, who's another black belt and did EBI twice, so it was good for me. And then I showed out. I did exactly what I needed to do. So.
Did Fury after the fight were they like, whoa, Carlos, we want you back on like ASAP? How you feel? It has the body, or have they not really contacted you since the fight? I know it's only been a couple of days.
They did message me, and they wanted to see how soon I could fight.
Oh, hey,
yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. But I know they want me to fight for their title. I don't even know who has their title, honestly. But but we'll see. Because I'm just trying to get into the UFC now. Okay. But yeah, man, they're a great promotion. They're fun. It was so quick.
Yeah, they are. They got a great promotion when on fight nights, every week now is like a UFC fight week. And it seems like, every card or every other card, they put up like, hey, Fury FC has this fighter in the UFC now, or this fighter's fighting for him. So that's a big statement. And then getting a shiny title for them, that'd be, like I said, man, UFC, they pay attention to what's on their brand. Like UFC Fight Pass and being on that's a huge step. So I think that's a big thing. And if they call you, are you into traveling? Like, do you have like a mindset like, oh man, I like fighting in this area or this region or even just in America? Are you like, hey, I'll fight in New Zealand, Alaska, Honolulu?
I don't care where I fight. For Fury, I want to keep it in Texas. Yeah. Because they usually do Texas or Colorado. I just want to keep it in Texas. I just don't want to deal with the elevation in Colorado. So I was like, give me. I was like, just. And then I already have all my physicals done with Texas, so it's like all it is just signing a paper and then flying out. So for Fury, I'm just gonna keep it in Texas because it's such a hassle to get all these medicals done, and then thinking about the logistics of everything. And then I have family in Houston, so it's just simple for me. But I don't care. I'll go anywhere. If I'm in the UFC and they're like, hey, we're gonna have a fight here, I'm like, to me it's like I want to go experience these other cultures and stuff. So
for sure.
I don't mind traveling. I like traveling.
Man, you mentioned something that I want to hit on. Wasn't part of my permanent black marker list about the evolution, fighting like in Colorado with the thin air and all that stuff. Have you ever done that, or have you ever worked on that? Have you ever felt fighting or training out there in Colorado?
Not in Colorado, but I have been up in Montana a couple times where they're higher on elevation. You do feel it. You 100% feel it. And especially if you're like fighting against someone from Colorado who's used to it, you know, it's like you have to play smart. But and especially for my first time going 25, I was like, I don't want to go to Colorado the first time 25 because I'm still experimenting, you know. And I'm trying to figure out the right process. And yeah, I got it I got it tuned in, but I'm gonna get it dialed in more and more and more. So,
okay. Man, and so we got connected through a mutual acquaintance, you know, our friend Paige. And man, she was like so high on your skills, right? She's like, man, people don't know how great of a wrestler he is. Of course, all the jits, and everyone can see that, you know, in the bio and stuff like that, the black belts, all that. To me, like, if you had to choose even one, or, you know, I kind of want to talk about both in the future, but if you had to choose as a, like, if you know, my son wants to become an MMA fighter, it's like, hey, more going to wrestling or go more into jits, what would you start with to kind of have like that base, a Matt Hughes base or like a Charles Oliveira base? What would you pick?
Man. I think for base, like if you didn't know anything else, I think wrestling.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, because if you're on top, you're on the like if you learn how to hold people down, take people down, and then you learn the basics of like self-defense, and that's you can really. Oh, there you go.
You're good.
Yeah, if you learn the basics of like self-defense after that strong wrestling base, I mean, you can dominate. You can dominate people. I really don't think, and I've met people. I've met a lot of good guys like who are great wrestlers, and they just learn fundamentals of like jiu-jitsu, and they stay away from submissions, and then they get to punch the guy. They get to be on top and punch the guy. So I think wrestling's so important, man, with that. And then if you start getting like good jiu-jitsu with the good wrestling, it's lethal because people start trying to explode, like overly extend their neck up while they try to explode up, and now you're choking them out too. So it's like a triple threat of like. It's like a triple threat of like trying to stand up, trying to defend punches, and then trying to defend submissions. But I think a strong wrestling base is probably the best for people like just starting out their kids for sure. But I love jiu-jitsu. I started jiu-jitsu first.
You're a jits guy for
hard
sure.
Question for me, man. I love jiu-jitsu, but I feel like what separates me is I also wrestled at a real like a pretty high level, you know. And
and like,
wrestling is so important.
And for me, like I'm a novice, man, never been a fighter, just I'm in it on the media side, and you know, watching it for a decade now straight, not missing anything. It's like, to me, if you have a good wrestling base, a Khabib Nurmagomedov wrestling base, right, an Islam Makhachev base, you control the fight. Like you control if you want to stand and bang, or even sometimes I feel like what Conor did to Khabib is like he was so did not care about Khabib's punches, and that overhand right was like the stunning punch of the fight. And it's like all he was worried about was wrestling and defense. And he never threw, and then Khabib gets his on him. It's like if you have the fear and the other fighter on your wrestling, like it's your fight. Like wherever you want to go, it's your thing. That's my novice take, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and then you see all these memes too, like in jiu-jitsu, and they're like when it's the guy's first day of jiu-jitsu class, but he was a D1 wrestler, you know? Like it's a real thing. Like even if these guys don't know jiu-jitsu and they're strong wrestlers and they go into like a jiu-jitsu class, it's like, I mean, I know some tournaments, like if you wrestled in college or if you wrestled at all, they make you compete at above the novice division, you know? So it matters a lot. That wrestling does matter so much.
Oh, for sure. So like I said, this is for me the first time really catching you. I watched your fight on Fight Pass this past weekend, and then like looking a lot up into you, Tapology, all that. And dude, I'm really high on you and your skills and watching you fight and watching you move. Sometimes you can just watch a fighter and like, oh, like you're clean and how you move and just little shit like that. And I think you know exactly what I mean. You can just see something. And then I look back and I'm like, man, I think it was like 2016 and 2014, whatever. Like there was like a big red on Topology. I'm like, how did this man lose? Like Carlos, like I think very high on you. Like I said, what happened, man? Like what happened? You start off 1-2. What changed? You haven't lost since that little streak there. What kind of happened back 5-8 years ago?
I didn't train. I just so this is how I would fight as an amateur. My buddy Joaquin, he was like 6-1 as a pro. and he was just a crazy athlete, a very special athlete, and like crazy conditioning, and he would just out condition everybody.
Yeah.
And then one day, he was like, I got done wrestling at North Idaho, and then he was like, "Hey, do you want to fight for this title?" I was like, "Sure." And then I fought Sean O'Malley, and then but I would take fights in like a week, you know, and then I'll just fight, and all I would do was run. Like I didn't have a gym. I trained. I wasn't even training jiu-jitsu at the time, and because I was
I can say real quick, so back then, were you doing it almost just like, you know, as a fun thing, as a like whatever? You didn't think it could be your profession, your career?
I had no idea I would be. I didn't think it'd be my profession career. I didn't even know the rules. Like when I hit Sean O'Malley in the back of the head, that's why I lost that fight. Like that last one, I didn't hit him in the back of the head. That was a fair strike, but I did hit him in the back of the head like 3 other times in that fight, and I got warned. You know. I didn't even know the rules. I literally didn't even know the rules when I fought him. And
so crazy.
But yeah, so like I started fighting as a pro. I won like 3 amateur fights like pretty quick, and I was like, you know what, I was like, I want to make some money. And and I started doing the same thing. Like I wasn't really training. I was like kind of trying to establish myself, like because I just moved out of I moved states. Like I was 17 and I moved states, and I was wrestling in college, and I was thinking about going into the military, and then I was just kind of taking fights, you know, like it was kind of the same strategy. I literally never did like a boxing class. I never did a Muay Thai class. I just wrestled and did jiu-jitsu, and I didn't know how to ground and pound. Like I didn't understand MMA like as a sport. I didn't understand the pace of it. Like I was used to like a 6-minute pace in wrestling, or like a 10-minute jiu-jitsu pace. Like straight through, I just didn't understand it. I was just like, when I lost those fights, I didn't know the sport, you know. And then I went into the military, and then I started studying a little bit more, and I started training. I started actually training, you know. But
okay, so like when you were in the military, you're like, okay, I'm 1 and 2 pro, and you know, probably you starting to love it, starting to get the bug, and maybe being away and watching and stuff like that. You're like, okay, I got to get into a camp and a gym and Muay Thai and boxing, and not even that. Like what you said is so brilliant, bro. Like you can have all those skill sets, but if you don't know how to meld them together or meld them into a fight and transition, like everyone. Like so much underrated stuff about MMA fights is about cardio and pace. Like Colby Covington, like I don't think he's the greatest striker in the world, but he's just in your fucking face the whole time and just kind of melts people. It's like it's a lot to handle. So like he beats people with pace and just like being in your face, like just shit like that, little stuff like that. I think is underrated in the fight game.
Oh yeah, and I didn't have that mat time, you know, as an amateur.
Yeah.
So I literally just didn't know the sport, you know. And then like the last guy that beat me, I fought him again, you know. I fought him my very next fight, and then I annihilated him. It wasn't even a close fight. I was like for a 3-round fight, I 25-30'd him all across the board with all of my refs, you know.
Wow.
So and then after that, like once I kind of got a gauge of like how to fight and how to blend in like my strengths, and like actually how to strike, what a jab was, you know, stuff like that. I started dominating these guys, and I just and even when I won my first few fights, I was like, I didn't really believe in myself because I had those first 2 losses, and I didn't even wanted to fight. Honestly, I was like, oh, I'm still doing it for fun. And then my buddy Chris, he's also an Army Ranger, but very old guy. He was in the CIA. Old school guy.
That's awesome.
He really believed in me. I was talking to my wife about this today. He really believed in me, and he was like, "Man, you're special. Like your grappling's very special, and you should fight." And that's really the biggest reason I have to say is like why I just kept on fighting. And then I turned 2-2, and then I fought like the biggest name over in the Pacific Northwest, who was like 7-3. And he only lost to guys that were in the UFC, and then I beat him, and then I was like, man, now I'm 3-2, and I'm beating these really good guys. And then I was 4-2, and then I fought some guy that was in Bellator, and then I was 5-2. I dominated him, and then I fought Ricky, who was and Contender Series. And then after I beat him, and I didn't just beat him, I dominated him before I submitted him. And then I was like, man, I think I can actually do this. And I wasn't even cutting weight. I was literally, dude, I would skip like a meal or two. I'd be at 135, and then I never cut weight for MMA. And then, but because I hated it so much in wrestling, and I did it so horribly in wrestling. And then I was like, maybe I need to go down to like my weight class and actually cut weight. And then I cut weight for 25, and I felt good. So here we are.
Crazy. So crazy. What a crazy story, dude. This is that's gonna be a good embedded like 3 years from now when you're fighting Davison Figueiredo for the flyweight championship. That's gonna be such a good embedded, man. That's good stuff. And like I said, I'm not trying to like blow smoke up your butt and all that stuff. I'm just being real. Like, you can, and I watch a lot of stuff on Fight Pass. I love UFC Fight Pass, and I work and do some stuff with them and media for them. Like, there's a lot of people you see on the like these big regional shows, and like one or two guys a show will like pop. Like, you're like, whoa, like that's a UFC caliber fighter. And when I watched you, I was like, dude, like this guy, like Carlos, like, this guy's top notch. And like Paige was like, dude, you gotta watch him. He's so good. I he's my buddy. All this stuff, and I was like, all right, I'll watch him. And like you popped off the screen, so that's crazy, man.
I appreciate that, man.
Absolutely, brother. One thing you mentioned a little bit earlier, and you kind of probably maybe answered this question. The PFL is paying a lot of good money to a lot of fighters. Bellator's doing some things, but you mentioned like off the bat, it's like, hey, I want to be in the UFC. If any other promotion, one, does some great things, especially for some lighter weight guys like yourself. If any other major promotion says, hey, Carlos, let's go 4-fight deal, 20K, 25K each, is that, it definitely pops you and intrigues you, or are you just narrow vision on the UFC?
That intrigues me for sure. And, I think UFC is definitely like the higher caliber.
Sure.
Like, and then for competition. And I'm just a competitor. Like my whole life, I just competed. And I know there's other promotions that will probably pay me more. But one, I would love to do one. Honestly, one would be a really cool platform to be on. I mean, they're blowing up, and they pay. It seems like they pay their fighters great. And as much as I want the recognition of like UFC, because that is like a really high, that's like really when people think about the highest level, they think UFC, But one's up there also, and I wouldn't consider Bellator just because they don't have a 25 division, and I really want to test my skills at 125. And does PFL have a 25 division?
No, PFL doesn't have one either, but you never know. Like, sooner or later, like I would assume they're gonna have to, right? Like, if you're gonna,
that's true.
If you're a major fighting organization, like you said, it's pretty wild that Bellator doesn't have one. Like Bellator has been around for 10, 15 years. Like they're a very high level number two, or really them and PFL can battle that out if they want to, But it's pretty wild. But hey.
I also really like the no weight cut thing in one, because I am really against weight cutting, and I try to do as right as possible this time with getting a nutritionist and stuff. But I think one or UFC, but definitely I think right now I want to be in the UFC first before I start transitioning to anything else, because I want to test myself,
Right. I think literally hours before we are doing this, one just signed a deal with Amazon. Like, I don't know if you know them, Amazon, they're a pretty fucking big deal. They got money. So I bet you one is like, they're just handing out checks soon, you never know. I got 2 fight, predictions I would love from you. And then I said, I got some fan questions from the Instagram. So 2 fights this weekend, Chito Vera, Rob Font. That's such a sick fight. 2 studs. The odds are really close. Who do you have winning that fight?
I've trained with Rob. I've sparred with him a couple times. I think Rob takes over that fight.
Oh,
that's a really good fight, though. I'm super interested in watching that fight. But Rob, man, God, that he's good, very good. I know he lost to Aldo, but I mean, Aldo.
They both lost to Aldo. That's what, like, so. This fight was announced 2 months ago, and I'm like, man, I was leaning Rob Font the whole way, and then all of a sudden this fight week, I'm like, I kind of looked up both up and all that stuff, and a little nugget I really liked and I heard, I was like, man, that's a really good point. Is that like Rob Font usually he's a guy who doesn't fight a lot. Like he fights on average like every 10 to even 12 months, like once a year. He fought Aldo 4 months ago, like 118 days ago, fight to fight.
Oh, yeah,
and
right.
and it didn't go well. Like I'm not, no shade, all respect in the world. Rob fought top 5 in the world. And the fight didn't go well, got knocked out a lot. Like I'm kind of like, is he rushing back a little bit too soon? Like that might be something, like afterwards, I was leaning fought the whole way. And when I heard that nugget, I'm like, I don't know. That might be something. Just throwing it out there.
It might be something, but I got to rock with my boy.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I got to rock with him.
Next week after that, lightweight championship on the line, a Jitz guy, Charles Oliveira, been around the block. Seems like you would have a lot of, a love for a guy like that. Justin Gaethje, though. Every fighter loves some Justin Gaethje. Who do you got in Gaethje and Oliveira?
I got Oliveira.
Yeah.
I think, man, Oliveira is just so dangerous everywhere.
Yeah.
He's so versatile. And then he has good wrestling too, man. He could easily take down Justin. And Justin's just he's a dog. Like you can't count out a dog like that.
Yeah.
But man, I'm excited for that fight. That's gonna be a great fight.
Yeah,
I'm leaning Oliveira. He's so technically smooth.
I am too, especially after watching, and I know this sounds horrible because he is like, people can argue the greatest of all time. After watching Gaethje and Khabib, like you feel that's the recipe that Charles Oliveira can watch and be like, okay, let's get to this position here, and we can get Gaethje pretty well. I'm leaning Oliveira as well, man. All right, so we're on the same page. We're kind of on it. All right, 3 fan questions. Like I said, there was like 9 of them about O'Malley, but I'll get one from you. On it says, would you want to fight O'Malley at 135 in the UFC?
I would do that. Yeah. If I go to the UFC and I'm doing good at 25, I would 100% fight O'Malley at 35. I'm good at 35. I'm strong as fuck at 35. So I know I do good.
And with that being said, this wasn't one of the questions. Like, do you foresee with, having that kind of, the cage time with them and all that stuff, do you foresee O'Malley getting that high? Like, I think he's ranked 12th or 15th, whatever he is. Do you think he is a top 3 in the world at 135, or do you think he never gets to that level?
I think he's has the potential for sure.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. I think his striking, he does have such a, he's very smart. He's very smart. His IQ is so, and I can't take that away.
Cerebral.
Yeah, he's a very, very smart fighter, man. He's not just an athlete. And that's what makes him special. Yeah, I'd say I think he'll be top 5 in a year, honestly, in a year or 2.
Another one from the fans was, what's your all-time favorite movie?
Oh, I love I Am Legend.
Oh, I Am Legend. Will Smith.
Yeah, it was one of the only movies that made me cry.
The dog scene, right?
I was like, oh my god, yeah. I Am Legend for sure.
That's a good one, man. I respect. And then they go another fan question: do you watch any other sports?
Just wrestling.
Just wrestling.
Jiu-jitsu, MMA. I don't watch anything else.
No basketball, football, nothing like that.
I can't get into it. I try to get into it, and I do. You know what I do? I'll still I'll watch like dancing and basketball every once in a while, not too often, but just to see their fakes, like a basketball fake.
Oh yeah.
And, or like the body control of the dancer, like because that's you can apply that to fighting. So like I think I steal certain things from like basketball and dancing, particularly to try to like copy it and then fit it into fighting, but
that's what O'Malley does. O'Malley's a basketball player. Like O'Malley's got a lot of like moves like that, little jive.
It's real. Like people that like played other sports, you could see it. Like you could see that that influence.
I like it, man. Hey, Carlos, dude, great time with you. Anything else you want to get off the chest? Any kind of sponsors you want to plug out? Shout outs, IG handles, all that.
Follow me at Carlos Lozoya MMA on Instagram. I just made a Twitter literally like 2 days ago. So follow me on Carlos Lozoya MMA on Twitter. Okay. Shout out to Major Sailor Inu. They really hooked me up for this last fight camp. So they're like a like crypto. So hooked me up a lot. Shout out to Upgrade Management. They've been on top of it with making things happen. So, and then Joe Lozon, shout out to him to letting me train all the time, and USMA with Tom Hafers also. So my shout outs right there.
That's awesome. Carlos, man, absolute pleasure talking to you. Future UFC stud, flyweight division, my man. Best to you and be good. And hopefully we'll get some fight news soon, all right?
Yes, absolutely, my friend. Thank you very much.
All right, brother, be good.
Thank you.